Welcome back to Performance Wellness. So glad that you're with us. And we are talking today about a topic that is very, very important to mastery and performance, and that is dealing with stage fright, performance anxiety. So you might want to just take a moment to remember the last time that you had those butterflies in your stomach, those sweaty palms, those foreboding thoughts that something terrible is going to happen to you. And know that there is a solution. You don't have to stay there very long. Yeah, so what's happening when we have a stage fright reaction is actually a self-preservation mechanism in the body that turns on. It's the body's fight or flight reaction to something that's threatening you. And with performance anxiety, it's often the threat is that you are going to be rejected, abandoned, yelled at, criticized in some way. And it creates this very old, hardwired reaction in the body to protect you through either running away or fighting the perpetrator of this threat. And as you know, that reaction, that old kind of limbic reaction from the reptilian part of the brain is not really useful when we're standing on stage wanting to sing an aria, or if we're doing a monologue in an acting audition, because we can't run and we can't fight. And rationally, there is no one who's really going to come after us and hurt us, break our legs or whatever. We are imagining these kinds of scary reactions, and there really is nowhere to go. So what happens is the body is pouring out all of this adrenaline and these stress hormones to give you energy you need to escape, and there's nowhere to go with it. And so that energy builds up in the body, the chemicals build up and create these symptoms. So let me ask you guys, what are some of the symptoms that you experience when you have performance anxiety?
Dry mouth.
Dry mouth, absolutely. What else?
The need to relieve myself, to go back.
Absolutely, right.
Flushing of the face and sweaty palms.
Right, which when you're playing the piano, is not you're slipping and sliding all over the keys. So yeah, what's happening is the dry mouth, for example, is related to the digestive system actually shuts down during fight or flight, so that we are not busy trying to digest our food, that we have all our energy to either fight or flee. That also is related to the bowel and bladder movement. You know, we are trying to get rid of anything that might slow us down from running. And also, many people vomit before a performance. So it's the same thing. We don't want anything slowing us down during this crisis situation. But for performers, having those symptoms are part of the problem. You know, we're nervous to begin with, but then when we feel like we're going to throw up and we're going to have to run to the bathroom, it makes it even worse. And really the bottom line with the fight or flight is that we don't feel in control. And more than anything, when we're performing, is we want to be in control of this vessel that expresses what it is that we need to do. So other symptoms, the sweaty palms, there's a lot of heat going on in the body when we're having a fight or flight reaction. There's also that cold, sweaty energy too. And so there's There's things going on in the blood vessels. The blood vessels are shutting down, and it's creating this cold hands. So,
Okay, get like trembling a little bit.
trembling, yes, and that again is related to the adrenaline that's going on. There's also problems with breathing, right? What happens when there you are taking a deep breath. Right. We tend to breathe shallow when we're anxious, and often we restrict our diaphragm as a way of trying to control the feelings, right? When we have powerful emotions, often we feel them in our bellies. And so people have learned how to hold the belly in and just breathe in the chest, which is the worst way to breathe when you need to perform, because you're not really using the full capacity of your breath. And that in itself can make you feel like you don't have enough energy for a singer to even end your phrases. So okay, enough of the fight or flight. What do we do to bring ourselves back to what I call stay and play? Because that's really what it is that we're doing. We're wanting to have a relationship with the audience, and we're wanting to do the thing that we've practiced for hours and hours and hours, that we love so much, that we want to share. The key to dealing with fight or flight and performance anxiety is having a relationship with your breathing. Think about it. Your breath is the animating force in your body. Without it, you're dead. There's a deadness, even if you're not breathing, if you're just breathing shallowly, you can feel that there's not a lot of vibrancy in a person. And from a yoga perspective, the yogis have done tremendous research, personal research on breathing and its effect in our lives. And what they discovered is that the actual life force that gives us our purpose in life is connected to the breath. It is in yoga called prana. In other schools of thought, it's called chi or spirit. And it's something that we've been very hard-pressed to discover from a scientific perspective, right? How many scientists are studying chi and prana? Why can't they study it? Because it's invisible. And it's something that the acupuncturists know about, and the energy healers, and we as artists, we know when we have a lot of chi and a lot of prana and when we don't. And a lot of that has to do with our emotions. And that's another really important issue that comes up with fight or flight. What is the emotion that is most prevalent when we're in a performance anxiety situation? Fear. Fear. And what happens to your breath and to even your blood vessels when we're in a state of fear?
Back, breathing.
Constriction. Absolutely. Things close down. And so what would be the opposite of fear? If we could transform fear.
Joy, happiness.
Yes, that's right.
Confidence.
That's right, absolutely. And the breath can be the link between the mind and your emotions and your thoughts and your physical body. So just by changing your breathing can actually start to change your thoughts and your feelings, right? So let's talk a little bit about the importance of breath and how we can use it for mastery and performance. The first thing that we want to look at is the breath mechanism. How do we breathe? some of us know more about how our cars work than our physical bodies. It's quite amazing to me. I don't think I ever learned anything about breathing until I took my first yoga class. But okay, we have our lungs, and they are encased by our rib cage. And obviously we can breathe either through our mouth or through our nose. And these are things that often we don't think about. Which is better, nose breathing or mouth breathing?
Well, nose breathing, there it's filtered and it's warmed,
Yes.
and a small amount of moisture is added to it.
Absolutely. Right. So you're preparing the air to be taken in by the body in a much better way when you're using nose breathing. And the mouth breathing, too, it doesn't really engage the diaphragm as strongly as does nose breathing. So we highly recommend that if you are a mouth breather, to really catch yourself and to try to shift into nasal breathing. And after a while, you'll find that you'll have more energy, you'll probably get less colds, and those kinds of things. So that would be the first thing to become aware of is, are you, first of all, even before that, are you breathing? Many of us tend to hold our breath. Why? Why do we hold our breath?
We're not thinking about it.
You're not aware of it, yeah, number one. People tend to hold their breaths when they're focusing intensely. Have you ever seen that in yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're trying to solve a crossword puzzle and you're thinking and you're not breathing. And eventually, you find that you're getting tired. You're tired because you have been forgetting to breathe. So that's one reason. Did you have other reasons about why we hold our breath?
I think, like you said, it's the focus. It's like, I don't want to do anything more than I need to do in this moment. And it almost feels like, well, breathing is something I can put on the back.
I'll do it later.
I'll breathe a little later.
That's true. You'll find people taking big sighs after completing some kind of project, right? Why do we have to do that? The yogis do not recommend that kind of erratic breathing.
Something about being in control.
Mm-hmm.
Being in control and conscious and not realizing that you're not exhaling.
Yes, that's true.
Fluidly.
Good point. Right. That and, when you look at babies, why do the babies hold their breath? Yeah, a lot of it has to do with, well, if you don't give me my toy, I'm going to hold my breath. So yeah, it starts that early in life. And also, with anxiety, we try to, hold our breath so that we don't feel the full extent of our terror. So learning how to be aware of your breath is the first step. Checking in throughout the day, particularly when you're in stressful situations. So not particularly just performing, but driving in traffic or waiting for a bus or something like that, and you find yourself, doing weird things with your breath, which in the long run really throw your mind off balance, because the mind really loves rhythm. And that is something that the breath can coordinate with your mind so that there's a strong cycle of inhalation, exhalation. I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling. My mind is getting oxygen. The brain needs oxygen in order to perform to its fullest. And particularly when it gets this regular dose, it's happy as a clam. And we want our brains to be happy because we really, really need them to be successful in our lives. And I truly think the people that are not successful is that it's not that they're not talented, it's that they're not using their breath in a way that maximizes their lives. You know, a lot of people, when they don't breathe properly, they're also not able to rest. You know, so they can't maximize those breaks that they get throughout the day, hopefully, if they get a break. And they have a hard time sleeping at night because they haven't developed this regular rhythm of breathing. So think about it. If you've been breathing rhythmically all day and you lie down in your bed, it's like your body just does what it needs to do. It just says, okay, it's time to sleep. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm asleep. And then you can sleep pretty deeply as well when your breath is regular like that. You're smiling. What are you thinking about?
I was just also, because I do have a problem sleeping. And I've done a number of things to change the environment. I have a humidifier in the winter time because I noticed that the dry air in my apartment would make my sinuses swell, and when the sinuses swell, I have to do more mouth breathing because I can't get adequate air through my nostrils, and then that causes other problems, which they start to mount up, and then the next thing I know, it's 2 in the morning and I can't. I'm so awake.
Yes, absolutely. So there'll be some other techniques that I'll share with you that will help with keeping your nasal passages hydrated as well. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So we're talking about nose breathing, rhythmic breathing, being aware of breath holding and pauses. The other thing that the yogis focus on a lot with breathing is the sound of the breath. Do you ever sit next to somebody on a train or a bus and they're like, and what is that? I get nervous when I hear people breathing like that because it just seems like they're really struggling. And so the yogis say, breathe quietly. Obviously, if your nose is stuffed, it's hard to do that. But again, when you learn some of these techniques, your nose shouldn't be stuffed very often. So what does it take to refine the noise in your breath so that there is no noise? How do we do that?
Well, I know for myself, when you hear me breathing, it's because in the moments before, I probably wasn't, so I'm catching up. So I'm doing it harder to compensate for the lack of rhythm in the breathing.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I find that I tense the area of the throat, the larynx, and then I start, you can hear my breathing, and when I relax it, the breathing becomes more fluid, rhythmical, and more silent.
That's a really good point, is that if the jaw is tight, the throat is tight, there's noise. And so just to feel the back of your throat and imagine that there's a lot of space back there will instantly create space in your breathing. It's fascinating.
You almost have to make an effort to make sound.
Yeah.
To breathe noisily.
Right. You do. But there are many people that breathe noisily all the time. And it's really because of lack of awareness. They're not breathing rhythmically, and some of them have chronic sinus problems, which for us as performers and teachers and whoever you are out there that are engaging with the public, we really need to be breathing rhythmically, not just for ourselves, though. One of the major ways that we connect with audiences is we entrain them through our breath. So if I start to talk slow like this, eventually your breath is going to slow down, right? It's the theory of entrainment. the stronger pulse in the room is going to draw all the other pulses to it, and they'll be entrained. And that's how great speakers are able to have the audience in the palm of their hands, because they're breathing and speaking in this rhythmical way. And the brains of their audiences just kind of get in step. And that's where also you can be manipulated, right? You think about someone like Hitler, who was quite an amazing speaker. And he used that talent to, draw people into his distorted thoughts and behaviors. And so we really have to be careful about how other people influence us. So, again, the important things about breathing to begin with is we're breathing through our nose, we're breathing quietly, we're breathing rhythmically, without pause, and finally, we're breathing diaphragmatically. We are using the muscle of breathing that is in the center of our torso, between the lungs and the lower part of the body, and it actually moves with our breath. So when we breathe in, the diaphragm pushes down so that there's more room in the lungs, and when we breathe out, the diaphragm pushes up, helping to dispel or get rid of the stale air. And so it's not something that you can really feel. You can't touch the diaphragm. It's really way in there. But when you use it, you feel that you're really breathing from a place of power, as opposed to trying to breathe just using your lungs. So you want to get into the habit of doing that. So let's do a little exercise now in diaphragmatic breathing. Those of you who are sitting with your computers, you might want to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen. And just at first observe, what is your breath like? Where does it emanate from? How long is your exhalation? How long is your inhalation? Do you feel your breath in your feet? Okay, so diaphragmatic breathing, you can actually visualize the process by imagining that there's a balloon inside of your abdomen. And when you breathe in, that balloon expands, right? So just imagine that it's expanding not just in your front, but in the back and in your sides. And then when you exhale, that balloon is collapsing, okay? So I love that image. You're breathing in, the balloon expands. Breathing out, the balloon lets out its air. Breathing in, expands. Breathing out, contracts. And really let yourself enjoy the experience of focusing on your breath. It's kind of like a little mini vacation, right? You're taking time to feed your physical body through breathing. And the miracle of breath, that's, I think, what the yogis tapped. There's more to breath than just air. There's a spirit that's alive in you that can help you to do anything you want in your life. To me, that's the most exciting thing about breath, is that nothing can get in the way of our desire to do what we want to do when we have the breath on our side. So, any questions about diaphragmatic breathing at this point? Feels good, right?
Yeah.
Right. Some people you'll find can't breathe diaphragmatically. And it's because they do a kind of breathing called paradoxical breathing. When they breathe in, they pull in the stomach. And when they breathe out, they push it out. And paradoxical breathing actually can be traced back to trauma, where you've been shocked in some way. Think about it. When you're shocked, you go, "Ah!" And what's happening to your diaphragm? It's squeezing it in. And so there is this inability to really expand the belly when you're breathing in. And I see this a lot with children who have been abused or whatever. They have this inability to breathe diaphragmatically. When you ask them to take a breath in, they'll go, and they're chest breathing. And so if you have friends like that, or if you have that kind of paradoxical breathing yourself, be very gentle with yourself, and just allow yourself to breathe out very slowly. You might want to use like a hissing sound. So you take a breath in and that you can actually feel the diaphragm working as you exhale. And then you can breathe in with fish lips, like, and you start to feel that there's activity in the abdomen. Now, this isn't the kind of breathing that you're going to breathe regularly, but it's certainly something that can help you to unlock the diaphragm if it is locked. Okay, so the next exercise that will help you in developing more breath awareness and more power in your diaphragm is a technique called 2-to-1 breathing. You're going to learn how to double the length of your exhalation as compared to your inhalation. And what that does is it starts to retrain the breath apparatus to be able to stay in your body when you're in situations that are scary. And literally, I do this when I'm driving in traffic. I find that I'm holding my breath, and my body's very tense, and so I will breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3. So it's bringing that energy from up here down into the powerful part of your body, your hips, your pelvis, your belly. That's where your power is. So let's take a moment to try that. So it doesn't have to be 3 and 6, it can be 2 and 4. Whatever your rhythm is fine. So let's give that a try. Hopefully you'll start to feel the breath actually moving down your legs into your feet. Feeling yourself being very grounded in your body. And that then will allow your mind to be more balanced and more calm. And from that place you can make good decisions. When you're not breathing deeply, say you're in a traffic jam, you can make decisions that are not healthy, like yelling at somebody behind you, or trying to get around somebody and damaging your car in the process. So, we want your mind and your body to be in harmony. How'd that feel?
good. You really feel the breathing like going down the body.
Yes.
From the body, legs down.
Absolutely. Yeah, we forget about this part of the body, particularly those of us who are in front of computers a lot. Literally, we get back pain because the breath isn't circulating and the blood then isn't circulating properly. And you can't really work to your best level because you don't have enough oxygen to fuel the brain. So this is very, very important. And then the next technique is even breathing. And this is how we should be breathing throughout the day. Breathing in for a certain count and breathing out for the same count. And getting that rhythm in your body. That is the key to most martial artists. You know, how do I be mindful? How can I, on a second's notice, defend myself or do what I need to do? When your breath is rhythmic, it's like you're on a wave. When your breath is not rhythmic, you have to make effort. And the whole idea of rhythmic, even breathing is that we want to be spontaneous. And we have to be, as creative artists. You never know when opportunities come up for you. And particularly when we're doing improv or whatever. When you're not in that sense of flow, then improvisation is an effort. And it's not fun. So let's give that a try. So say you're breathing in for 3 counts, and you're breathing out for 3 counts. And see if you can really enjoy the feeling of that sense of rhythm inside the body. You might even start to hear your heartbeat as you get into that quiet, rhythmic breathing. Okay. Everybody looks so beautiful and peaceful. And that's what can happen when you have that mind-body harmony. Any questions so far?
I want to take a nap.
You got
Very long time.
we got very still there for a second.
It's very calm, very present.
Yes, exactly. Very calm. And when you're with other people in that state, it's thrilling. It creates a kind of intimacy that we're really longing for. So I hope you're feeling that out there in your homes or wherever you are.